good afternoon, or good morning for those that are in multiple time zones away from us. This is a lesson deep dive for the range activities for cyber.org. My name is Brandon Sally. I'm one of the curriculum development specialists or cybersecurity curriculum specialists here at cyber.org. And with me is the fabulous Linda Morgan. Uh, just a little bit of introductions, kind of who we are, what we do, if you haven't seen us already. I know we have several repeats because there's so many sessions going on. So sorry you get to hear the same thing, but for those that do not know us, that's our title. That's what we do. As far as background, I started doing actual professional development for science, more STEM related, working with robotics and things like that. After doing that for several years, leading workshops, professional development, I decided to go into the classroom because I had that STEM background. My bachelor's degree is in biology. I went the more traditional science route. So I taught biology, chemistry for a couple of years, taught forensics, and then started getting into teaching cyber.org's courses, which at the time they were known as NYSERC. So I taught cyber literacy 2, cyber science, computer science, then got into AP computer science, and so forth. I was one of those teachers that had about 5 or 6 preps per year. And if you teach electives, then you're probably familiar with that as well. So after doing that for a few years, got into leading curriculum, eventually was over curriculum for the school, and then went from the school to working here at cyber.org, where I've been for just over a year and a half. So know the curriculum from using it in the classroom to now writing the curriculum, so quite familiar with it. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I will pass it on to Linda to talk about her background.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. A lot like Brandon, I am sort of on a career number. Actually, for me, I think it's 3 at this point. I started in broadcast journalism and worked there for a little bit, and then went back to school to get my alt cert in middle school science and mathematics, and so did that for a little bit. And it wasn't until I moved to Bossier that my principal had asked me to teach robotics. And so I was prepped and ready to teach 6th grade ELA, and life just kind of happens that way. And so I have been on the elective road ever since. And so I actually met Brandon before we ever worked at cyber.org at those robotics competitions that he was talking about. So we've known each other, and so it was a pleasant surprise whenever we both started working here together. So that moving over to curriculum, now my 3rd career, and I'm actually super grateful for it because understanding the elective kind of, you teach whatever they ask you to. It's really cool to help teachers now get started with their journey of being super successful at courses that they were probably voluntold they were going to teach. So super excited to be here with y'all.
All right. And Linda mentioned we met with the robotics competitions. I will admit she took home more trophies than I did, but I won't hold that against her, and hopefully you don't either. But so just to get us started, quick agenda. I'm also going to drop in the chat a couple of links if you haven't signed up for the curriculum yet. This course also uses the range, so I included the link to the range. That was actually the QR code that was on the first slide. So if you felt like scanning that, neither one of us explained it. So sometimes you talk about cybersecurity and questionable QR codes, but if you did, it would have taken you to the application for the range. So we'll do a quick overview of the range activities, just what's included in that particular course, what would you get as the teacher, what's available to the student, and how you would present these lessons. We'll complete one of the lessons called Gamer Exclaimer, uses 2 of the machines, so you'll get to experience how to use the range and using two machines. We'll share some tips and tricks with doing that. Then we'll go through another lesson called Stegosaur that talks about stenography. And then we'll kind of have a wrap up where we can just talk about ways to add this to other courses and do a little bit of cross-curricular things, answer any questions you have, and then have a survey at the end. So with that, again, same thing. You can scan this. The link also works to get curriculum. For those that, if you haven't joined us already this week, just background information on us. So we're at cyber.org. We're sponsored by the Department of Homeland Security, specifically the CISA branch. That's the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. We were essentially funded to help fill in the gap in the cyber workforce as we move towards a more cyber and technologically enhanced society. We're going to have more things ingrained in our daily lives, and with that becomes more threats and increased number of threats. Just this morning, we were talking about just amongst ourselves in here, all the different attacks that have come through in just the last few months. It seems to be one thing after another with various ransomware attacks, phishing attacks, data breaches, and things like that constantly going on. And it's going to continue as we move towards having everything in a more virtual realm. And so that's why we're here. We're here to provide you with the resources, the tools needed to educate the future cybersecurity professionals of tomorrow. So we try to provide everything you need from beginning to end and help you out along the way by doing these trainings. So if you have any questions, again, please throw it in the chat, come off mute, or email us, and we'll provide our emails again at the end. Since this does utilize the range, just a little bit of background information on what a range is. So for us, it's they actually have several definitions as far as how they're used, but for us, it's a sandboxed environment that is browser-based and allows you to practice cybersecurity skills and techniques in that safe environment without it actually affecting your physical machine. With ours, since it's browser-based, you don't have to install any kind of software. There's nothing like that. As long as you can get to the website, apps.cyber.org, and we'll put that in the chat once we get through the login process, then you're good to go at that point. The range actually, even though it's going through a browser and it is on the internet, does not actually touch even the school's network. As far as the school is concerned, you're only accessing that apps.cyber.org page. So anything that occurs inside that sandboxed environment stays inside that sandboxed environment and doesn't reach out to anything in the school. So you don't have to worry about an IT member of your IT department coming down and questioning why you're doing certain things in your classroom. And this is needed. This is helpful because some of the things that you look at and you deal with in cybersecurity can actually be quite harmful to your devices. You would not want to do something such as launching ransomware, deploying ransomware on a machine and use that on your actual physical device unless you never want to really use that device ever again. But with the cyber.org range, you could easily run through the labs, terminate the machines, and then relaunch as needed. And unless there's any questions, I believe Linda is up. She's going to talk about the course. Do you want me to stop sharing?
Yeah. All right. Screen one. Here we go. All right. So what resources do the activities have? Excellent question. So our range activities come with our lesson guides, PowerPoint slides, a guided notes document that students can use to sort of track their way through the lab, and then the answer key for that activity. And so whenever, just like any other course, you would go to Canvas and you would be able to download these materials and then present them to your students in either your LMS or by printing them out or showing them to the students. So if we take a look at, here we go, the website, again, log into that Canvas account, and then under middle school is where we're going to find those cyber.org range activities. So taking a look at the screen here, you can see all of the different lessons and all of those resources that we just mentioned, the lesson guides, the slides, the guided notes, and the answers. So all available there for you. And the slides themselves are have little arrows pointing to things that it is important to know to be able to either walk the students through the lab in a whole class experience or to give the students along with the guided notes so that they can do a student-paced run through of the lab activities. So accessing the range. Brandon, I'm gonna go ahead and stop so we can talk a little bit about, or actually, no, that's still me. That's still me. We'll talk about how to get on the range. So I did put that apps.cyber.org link into the chat. That is where you would find that. Brandon has just dropped into the chat your range logins. So if you click and open that PDF, you'll find a login. And so what I'm going to do is head over there and we'll look at logging in. So when you get to, and let me log out. So when you get to apps.cyber.org, you'll click login. So where you currently see that email address and password, that is where you are going to type in the username and password, the list that Brandon gave you. So the username is going to look like a random collection of letters and numbers, and then you have your password there. So when you get in, your classroom is going to look a little bit different than mine. You'll actually be able to see machines that you have available, and you'll notice that in your view, you should see that the Kali Linux and the Windows 7 machines are active, but you'll also see two other machines in there, the Ubuntu Linux and the Windows Server 22. They're not launched, so you'll see that they also have buttons that you could press to go ahead and launch those machines. So the nice thing is that you as a teacher would get two classrooms that you could have students in, and so you would be able to launch those machines for them ahead of time because sometimes it takes a little minute, especially at hours during the day where the range is busy. So just like you saw my classroom, I could go in and launch those machines for everybody, but Brandon has already done that. So you should have all of the machines that you will need as we go through our lab. One of the very first lessons that you will want to go through with your students whenever you are looking at the range is this lesson 0 right here. So lesson 0 introduces students to the concept of virtual machines, gives them time to go in and explore those 4 machines that I just named, and gets them comfortable with the concept of a virtual machine in a web-based platform. So it's a really great intro, not just for the students, but also for us teachers to be able to sort of go through and remind or, have on hand what are the important concepts that we need to talk to students about whenever they are using those virtual machines. So that is a really great lesson to put in front of the kids. Brandon, want to do one?
Sure. So go back to sharing. So when you first logged in, it looked like this. And so if I click on my name and you saw your machines, so before we actually get started, if you've already connected to a machine, if you could just hit, you should see a button at the top that says close, something like that, or you can kind of hit the back button. But if you start here, since this first lab uses 2 machines, this is kind of your first tricks and tips of the day with this. So I have the Kali Linux machine open or ready to connect, and then I have the Windows 7 ready to connect. Since it uses both, I'm going to right click on the tab, like the actual browser tab, and hit duplicate so that I now have 2 windows open. Every browser should have that option. Based on what you use, sometimes it'll say duplicate tab, but usually it's duplicate in some form or fashion. And at that point, I'm going to use the first tab to open the Kali Linux machine. So I'm going to click on connect and let it load. And then I'm going to click on that second tab that still has that classroom view and click connect to the Windows 7. And so now I can easily cycle between machines and I don't have any issues going back and forth. You can switch between machines by hitting other machines and you go back and forth here. But to me, it just makes more sense to have the 2 tabs. It makes it a little bit easier for students to go back and forth without having to do that extra step. And so at that point, we're going to actually start in the Kali Linux machine. And so I was doing that just to show you. I'm going to actually now close that and go to the teacher one. So with this machine, you can see it looks just like a desktop would. If you're unfamiliar with Linux, they have several different distributions. The Kali Linux is used in cybersecurity quite heavily because of the tools that comes with it automatically. So when you install it as a desktop, you're going to get several things that just come with it prepackaged and ready to go. But what we're going to do now is most of the work inside of Linux is going to be used through a terminal. So you're going to click this little black and white box up in the top left corner. That's going to open up a terminal, and there's going to be a slight delay just because even though this is a virtual machine, it's going through the browser, it is functioning just like an actual computer. So just like if you try to open an application, if we try to open up Firefox, that one probably takes the most amount of time. It actually takes a little bit for it to open because it's having to reach out to that machine and open that application. So it's having to start up those processes. Once you get the terminal open, if you hit Control Shift and then the plus button, you can increase the text. So I'm going to increase it so you can see it a little bit better. Probably too big now, but we'll make it work. So what we're going to do in here, this is Gamer Exclaimer. And I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself. I didn't actually explain the background information, so I'm going to hop back over to the PowerPoint slide before we run our first command and go into what this lesson actually covers. So with Gamer Exclaimer, first off, we know that students love playing games. I'm sure you have students in your classrooms that are gamers. There's several that come to mind. My daughter plays games. I play games all the time. As we travel, I play games while waiting on my flight or waiting to determine what gate I have to change to. And so it's pretty big in society. And so the idea between this with this lesson is you're going to have a fake website set up that is set to have an option on it to click to redeem like a promotional code to get a game skin for a game. So students don't just love playing games, they like getting extra things to it. So they can get a new skin in a game to disguise their character, however, they're going to want to do that. And in doing that, it's going to use a particular tool that's going to actually harvest their credentials. So the main point of this is to talk about online gaming, being mindful of threats that are out there, such as phishing or things that may be disguised as those rewards. And so you'll discuss some of the ways those can occur in social engineering. And then they'll get to actually go through the lab, set up the fake page, and experience that also as the victim. And then talk about ways to essentially mitigate that type of scenario or prevent them from falling for that type of scam. So it starts off, every lesson has kind of a background information. So it goes through how many of you play online games. If you have a favorite game, feel free to throw it in the chat. I'll tell you now, and Linda probably knows, I am a fan of the Zelda series, so I play those quite a bit. There's several others that I play. And then it goes into, has anybody ever had their account stolen or hacked or something like that? Especially some of these online just browser-based games where students can easily like play during their free time at school or in class. Even when you tell them not to, they're still going to try to play. They're easily accessible, so they can log in, and oftentimes they forget to log out. And so they'll call it, they'll say someone hacked my account. Well, they just simply forgot to log out. But they do fall for those things or have issues. It goes into how it might occur and things like that. Then we introduce social engineering. What I like to tell people is it's one thing to be able to create a phishing tool or use a piece of malware or things like that. That's actually not that difficult, especially nowadays with everything already being out there. People make things and just put them out on the internet. The difficult part is the social engineering part. I can make a piece of malware or make something that is used in phishing, but getting someone to actually fall for it is the difficult part. It takes a special set of characteristics and skills to do this. So you cover social engineering. It's getting someone to do something when they normally would not do it, and giving up some kind of information. There are some ways to do this. For example, here, click here to see more pics of the new puppy. So if you have someone who is a fan of dogs or pets or something like that, they may be saying, sure, I'd click there. It could be an embedded link in a social media post or things like that, where it's linking to something external. The idea is they're playing on your emotions or your likes, dislikes, things like that. Other examples, gift card to your favorite store. Especially if you're posting things, you're sharing, your location, things like that, and it's easy to see where you shop or things that you like. Then it's easier to target something like that. Things like free concert tickets. We all know there are certain musical groups out there and things like that that have a very large fan base, and they would be willing to do just about anything to get tickets. So something like this they could fall for. Then it goes into a little bit more the actual terms used in social engineering. So there's a few terms that actually are associated with social engineering or categories that they fit into. The ones that go with this lesson, and the idea of having there's a promotional pop-up that comes up and they can click on something to get a prize. It covers authority, scarcity, and urgency. So it could be anything from a malicious attacker posing as a developer. There's maybe an update, a change of terms of service, policies, things like that. Scarcity would be like, here's a prize. You have 1 month to collect it, or you have to collect it in the next 24 hours or something like that. And then urgency is similar to scarcity, but urgency is usually going to be more of a technical approach. Something like there's a problem with a game, you need to download this patch, or they may pretend like there's a security threat and that your information is not protected, so you need to install an update. And so those are the three things you would really see in the gaming world as far as a phishing or social engineering. Then it goes into phishing, exactly what phishing is, which is just taking social engineering, combining it with trying to get someone to click on a link through some sort of messaging. Phishing actually has several different subcategories. You can do things like spear phishing, where you get to know your target really well. And so you design something for one specific target, and all the way down to actual like voice phishing, which is called phishing instead. So with voice calls. So it talks about a little bit of the background information, signs to look for, typos. You'll see with a website, there is a typo and there's some errors in it. So looking for those things, looking for poor graphics. They tend to, if they're trying to do this in bulk, they're not going to be very elegant with their design. Then each lesson has a career connection. So right before you would actually go into the lab, the students would then go to our careers page and explore a career that connects to it. So this one happens to have vulnerability assessment analysis. So this is a person who would actually be working in the field looking for vulnerabilities within a system, connection to the game world. Maybe there's an exploit or there's something in there that is serving as a way for someone malicious to collect information or get into a particular system. And so after they explore that, then you go into the actual lab. And so it'll go through how to log in, starting all of that. And so that's where I'm going to switch over back to the Kali. So with this, if you did the duplicating tabs, then you're kind of good to go. This part's going to be easy. But the one thing the students would need to know is they need to know their IP address. And the IP address is this number right here. But you can actually, if you weren't working inside the cyber.org range, you can run the command hostname -I, and it would print the IP address. But we make it easy. The way we have the terminal formatted, it shows up right there. It also shows up on the tabs at the top. And if you click the other machines, and notice now I'm in the teacher account, I can see everybody's machine. The IP address is also listed there. So pretty much in the cyber.org range, anywhere you look, you're going to find an IP address somewhere. With that, the first thing we need to do is launch what we call a social engineering toolkit. So I've introduced that. That's the application that's used. And to do that, we do need sudo rights, which is a Linux form of administrative rights. So you're going to type in the word sudo se toolkit. Pretty easy command. The only issue I've ever seen in this is some people pronounce it set toolkit, so they add an extra T, and you may have students do the same, but sudo se toolkit, and then hit enter. And after a few seconds, you're going to have a little pop-up. The pop-up is simply just a terms of service for the SE toolkit. You can take the time to read it one day. It's actually kind of funny, but it essentially is saying you're going to use this for educational purposes and nothing malicious, which is what we're using it for now. So we're going to hit Y and hit enter. And once you do that, it's all menu based. So there's not too many commands left that you need to do. And so with that, we're performing a social engineering attack. We like to say that this one is as easy as 1, 2, 3 when using the SE toolkit. We're going to do other things with it. But when we say it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, is you literally select one, hit enter. We're going to use a website, a fake website, as our attack vector. So then you're going to hit 2, enter. We're going to harvest credentials. We're trying to get someone's login information so that we can take over their account, get other information, whatever we need, but we're going to harvest those credentials. So hit 3 and enter. Then we're going to use a template. So the count starts back over. We have one that's already set up. And then for this, all it's asking is where do you want the results to return to? If I was a malicious user, I may want to see these results go to an offsite server, somewhere that's separate from what's hosting it. But for us, we want to see the results right here. So you don't have to do anything, you simply hit enter. And then once you get to this, you'll hit 2 for Google, because we're going to clone the Google sign-in page. Once you hit enter, it'll say take a little bit, and then it starts, and you should see this message here. If you see this message, you're good to go. If you do not see this message, and the main one is Credential Harvesters running on port 80. If you do not see that, then drop a little message in the chat, and Linda and I will try to help you out and get you on track. At that point, this terminal needs to stay open, but we can't do anything else with it. So this one's going to kind of just sit in the background, and you need to open a separate terminal. And so if you click on the black and white square, another window will pop up, and you can resize that as needed. And I'll zoom in. And then, so for this to work, so you would actually go through quite a few steps to set up a fake page. But since this is meant for middle school and it's range activities, we've done quite a bit of the heavy lifting for you. So we have things pre-set up. What the students do is they actually run what's called an alias, but they do have to navigate to where the files are housed. So to do that, they need to move my cursor out of the way, change directory command, which is CD. You do course files, and I'm gonna stop here if it's another trick and tip for Linux systems. If you have a name of a file or a directory, and you don't have it repeating the same letters over and over. So example, we're moving into the course files directory. If you start typing the name of the file or directory and then hit tab, it will auto-complete for you. So this will be really helpful for middle school age, because the next folder would be range activities. When I hit tab, you can see that the capital R and capital A could throw them off. If they were to type in any of those lowercase, Linux is case sensitive. And so it would not know where they're wanting to go. It'll come back with an error that directory doesn't exist. Once they get to range activities, so CD course files / range activities, you hit enter. We're now inside that folder. So once you're inside that folder, you're going to run one simple command that says game code, and it's going to have capital G, capital C. And when you run that command, it's going to do a few things in the background. One, it's going to take a file that has all the HTML needed to create that page, and it's going to make sure that the IP address for this machine matches, so that we can get to it as the victim. Then it's going to move it over to a server, and it's going to start the server. And this is not built into the lesson, but if I run the command alias, and I made it capital, if I run the command alias, all lowercase, you can actually see what some of these are. So if you see game code, you can see that it actually stands for sudo. It knows where this particular script is. And so that's the actual command it's doing. So that's a way that we make it a little bit easier for middle school age students to be able to do this, because if they had to type out the command sudo root home Kali course files range files, then there's a hidden folder, and then the name of the script, it could get a little complicated. At that point, we're finished inside the Kali machine. So I'm going to minimize that particular window and leave it open to this, because now we can see if we can get some results. Remember, you need that Kali IP address, so if you have the tabs open, you're good to go. We're going to move over to Windows. If you have any random pop-ups, then you can close it. And we're going to open up Internet Explorer, or as I like to call it, the best browser out there to download another browser. You'll get this little pop-up about a tutorial. Close that. You can maximize the screen or not. It really doesn't matter, but inside the URL bar, and you want to make sure you're up here in the URL bar and not the search bar or anything like that. You're going to type in your Cali IP address, and after the IP address, you're going to type in new game.html. And all of this is listed in the instructions in the handout and the PowerPoint for the lesson. So the students know exactly what to type in. So your Cali IP address, new game.html. And when you do that, a page loads. It says claim your reward, sign into your Google Play Store account, use the promo code below, and you can get this by clicking redeem. So now's a good time you would stop, have the students look at it, say what's off about the website. Are there any issue? How many websites do you know that you would go to by typing in the IP address? If you notice anything else that's wrong about the website, you can drop it in the chat or mention it. But for the most part, though, it looks like a website. Apart from the URL is an IP address, and then there's some typos and the formatting's a little off. So we're gonna we want to play as the victim, so we're gonna pretend to be the victim, and we got to get the skin for this game. So we hit redeem, and now I'll maximize mine to make it a little bit bigger to see. You have a Google login screen pop up. And so it said on the previous page, you would need to log into Google. And so at this point, as the victim, we would sign in to Google. Again, you can point out things that are wrong with the page. For example, you look up here, one, it doesn't use a secure protocol, it's missing an S, but also it's an IP address still. But we're gonna pretend like it's fine, we know what we're doing. I also like to mention to teachers and mention to students, a lot of times something like this may occur on a mobile device or a tablet. And in those cases, it may reformat the entire page to where it's in mobile view, and that actually hides the URL bar. So they may not even notice the URL bar based on what type of device they were using out in the real world. So for this, I always recommend do not type in your actual email, but you can do one that's similar. And definitely do not type in your actual password. So I'm going to use Linda's password. And then hit sign in. You'll get the standard pop-up that says, do you want Internet Explorer to remember this password? If you're using whatever browser, you always have that pop-up. And then it goes to Google. Notice now, though, the URL has changed. This one actually looks legitimate. So we're actually at Google. But notice in the top right corner, it says sign in. So if we just entered our credentials, it should have a little avatar or the little circle that has your initials in it, however you have it set up, to show that you're signed in. Or if you had like a custom background for your Google page, then it would look like that. But it doesn't. It still says sign in. At this point, and while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and show you this. Let's see. Type in game. You can actually like search in there, so it is the actual Google page. So if I just search for game, it pops up. Note in the range, we can talk about this at the end, they wouldn't be able to actually get to some of these websites. So it looks okay. Say we continued on, we hit sign in, moved on to our game. If we go back to the Cali machine, notice I now have this pop up.
And so I have to change my password.
Yep. So the first thing that pops up is you actually get some white text that usually gets pushed up to the top that shows the machine has connected to the Cali machine. So anytime the victim is going to establish that connection, you'll get a little pop-up message. And then it says we got a hit, and it prints the output. Notice it is not encrypted. It is not hashed or anything. If you're familiar with those, it is in plain text exactly what I typed. So here's the fake email I put in, and then the password chinchilla123 ! And so this would, in the real world, go out to perhaps thousands of users, or be shared, be tied to something that actually is self-generating and basically sends itself out. And so it may hit hundreds of thousands based on the size of it. what all it can do. But all it takes is one person to fall for it. You get these results. And so at the end of it, a malicious user would just essentially let this run, and they could sit there and harvest credentials. It's not like they're probably sitting at the computer just waiting for one to come in at a time. They're just going to let it run. And then they'll download all of that as one large file. And that's how you end up with some of your data breaches, some of the data being collected from websites. They could have taken over a legitimate website or had a redirect or something like that that generated a fake page that mimicked that site, and they were using that to harvest credentials. But that's the credential harvester in Gamer Exclaimer and how it works. There's another way in which you can do is, if anybody wants to do it, you can actually let's see. Can you try this in your Windows machine? So if I go back, can you try just typing in just your IP address and see if it gives you the Google login screen? So without the new game.html at the end. And while we're trying that, if anybody wants to try it out, you can actually connect to mine as well. So if you type this in, okay, so you got the login screen. Okay, so it may not have loaded the web page. I can check out your machine in just a second. If you didn't run the game code in the directory for range activities, that could be an issue with where it actually put that page at. But if you got the login screen, that means the SE Toolkit is working fine, and you can still put those put some fake credentials in and see if they come through. If anybody wants to put my IP address in their Windows 7 machine, so not your, don't open like a tab and put that in. It's going to give you an error then. But inside your Windows machine, if you put in my IP address when you game, you should get the fake page on mine, go through the full steps, and we could actually see somebody else's machine or credentials come in. Once you complete this portion of the lab, it goes through a couple of questions. I'm just wrapping up the lesson. Again, ways to protect against this, looking for the signs of a fake page, looking for signs that something is off. So when I put in my credentials and I noticed that it went to the Google page and it still said sign in, that should be a sign that something was wrong. I entered those credentials. I should be signed in. Somebody joined. If I felt like something like that went through or occurred, I should immediately change my password because that means that those credentials could have been harvested and somebody now as a malicious user has those. Again, they're probably not sitting at their screen waiting just for your credentials to come in, but they very well, after a few hours, have something set up where they try to use what they've collected from you. Look for those pages, do something. So I did get someone to connect. And then the lesson would just have kind of a slide that ties everything together with a few discussion questions that are meant to drive topics inside the classroom. But I do have one added question, is ways you could adapt this. One is you could do it like I have. You could just set the lab up and essentially you're playing the malicious user and have all the students be the victims. Or you could take the students and actually pair them up with each other. You could have one student be the malicious user and they just act as the Kali user. You could also have somebody just play the victim. And so you could do it that way as well. So there's different ways you could kind of adapt this on your own and do that. You can also, I'll go to my windows and close this one. What I did prior to the workshop starting, and let's see, I think I put it in the windows, is say you have your teacher that has to teach several electives. If you teach like a web design class or something like that, you can actually go in and edit your own web page. And so like I did this one, and I'll go ahead and tell you, like I just fed this one into an AI, got it to spit out the code, and then I used it. It's still inside the range. I can minimize that and show you that it is still in the Windows 7, but I changed the page up a little bit. So you could also do that. You could change up some of the HTML in the machine. This one, instead of going to the harvester, if I click on the button, it actually has a little alert that says you should probably change that password now. All right, so we got a couple other hits. Any questions about this activity before I pass it on to Linda? A couple of questions. And before let's see.
Very interesting things happening on the range today.
Yep. So I didn't get that. Yeah, that is interesting there. That could have been maybe just a network hiccup. So anytime, just to explain a little bit how the range works. It's running through what's called a VNC connection. It's a virtual network connection. So what you're seeing in the range, so even as like I moved the mouse, I moved the window and things like that, essentially what it's doing is the machine where these are hosted, and these are hosted on AWS in Ohio, is every time you perform an action on this machine, that action's performed on a server that's hosting several machines in AWS. Those machines then send an image of what the machine should look like due to your action. And it's kind of just every second, it's actually refreshing this page multiple times to show you this image. And so if there's ever a little hiccup in that connection, or Linda mentioned this earlier, like it's a busy part of the day, AWS powers a ton of websites out there. They get a ton of traffic throughout the day. So if there's ever a little hiccup and a page says it maybe won't load, or there's an error, it could just be like there was a network hiccup. If it was anywhere on in your side, school networks are sometimes a little spotty, but it could also just be network is busy. You can try refreshing it, sometimes it'll work.
Oh
So
no,
oh,
Anya,
that's
I'm sure that's not true.
one thing you do need to do before we move on to the next one, because we're going to be using a couple other things. If you ever run the SE toolkit, and this doesn't happen too often in the classroom, but if you were going to do back-to-back labs, you would need to shut this process down. So the terminal that you have the SE toolkit open in, what you're going to need to do is just make sure that window is open, and you're going to hit the control button and C, and that's going to end it. And you should see a message that says it's actually stored a report, and then you'll hit return. What you'll do is hit control C, and I do it repeatedly until I get something like this. So control C over and over and over until I am back at that original Kali prompt. And ensures that the SE Toolkit is completely shut down. So if you were going to do something that is hosting a web page or something like that, that would be necessary, or it's going to lead to some errors later. If you did like me and you hit it like 12 times, you can type in the command clear and get a nice fresh screen. And you'll be ready to try out the next one. And hopefully the next one works for everybody.
Yeah, I need the win today, so I really hope it does.
And just to make sure, what I can do is I go down, let's see. On that PDF that I dropped in there, as long as, and somebody can speak up, there are backup accounts down at the bottom. If you want, if you did have an issue, you can log out and use one of those backup logins, and we'll make sure it's not just something tied to that machine. So nothing else happens. And with this lab, you're starting fresh, so the machine's already launched and ready to go. Great. Linda, you ready for stenography?
I am just trying to get there in the PowerPoint. Okay, fantastic. So I will go ahead and share my screen. All right. So the next activity that we are going to look at, like Brandon said, is a steganography activity, and it is called Stegosaur, Decrypting Dino Secrets. Interesting names around here. And so just like Gamer Exclaimer, this one starts out with our focus question or guiding question and objectives. It introduces the concept of steganography for students who are not familiar with the concept. And so it starts out with this picture with all of the toys and asks the question, have you ever played a game like this where you have to search for hidden items? And then talking a little bit about the feeling that you get when you can find a toy that no one else can find, and then asks if you can help the kids find their toys. And so it would, the PowerPoint circles the toy we're looking for and then finds it in the pile. And so you could go through until all of the toys were found. And if your students are wondering what in the world this has to do with anything, the next slide kind of deepens the explanation. So it asks, what is the message in this picture, and whether or not looking at it in a different light would help. And so we start to get the idea that we're going to have to do something with the images that we receive in order to get the messages that they're showing. So this next slide actually introduces steganography, defines it as the practice of concealing information within non-secret data, such as images, audio files, or text, in order to hide their existence. And so the image on your screen there of Steggy Hill is a photo, and if you looked at the photo, you wouldn't know that there was anything hidden in it at all. And so steganography has that slight difference from cryptography, that this image could be totally made public. And if you didn't know that there was information in that image, then you wouldn't know. So again, the concept of hiding it in plain sight. We talk a little bit about whether or not we would consider steganography good or bad, because like Brandon said, the same Kali Linux that can be used by corporations to do password audits and different things like that are also used by malicious actors to do not so great things either. So we really hit on the idea of talking about how a tool is a tool, and it's not good or bad until the user decides how they're going to use it. Then the steps of steganography start with choosing a medium, selecting your steganographic technique, encoding your message, sharing the cover content, decoding that message, extracting the data, and then of course maintaining security. And you'll see that StegHide does that by making the sender and the receiver both know a password to get into the hidden message. The cyber career that goes with this particular lesson is once again cryptographer, because the two disciplines are related and usually used together to increase the security of data. So then the lesson gets into the lab itself. You guys have already logged into the range and you are in. So we are going to pick up from there. So I'm going to switch over to my Kali Linux. I tried to get it pretty much to the point where y'all are at. If you have cleared your screen, I will make my text a little bit bigger there. And so just like Brandon did, we are going to change directories. You're probably already in course files. So if you hit CD and then press enter, it will bring you back home. We can use the command pwd print working directory to tell where we are at. And so we are right back home. So I'm going to go ahead and CD into range activities once again, but the directions for this activity also include another directory, and the name of that directory is Steggy Hill. So I'm going to CD course files, range activities, Steggy Hill, and then press enter. And so if we use ls, that list command, we see we have two images in the Steggy Hill folder. One of them is fossil.jpg. The other one is spinosaurus.jpg. If I want to go ahead and take a look at those, I could go ahead and navigate through that home folder and just like in the Windows machines, search folder to folder until I get where I want to be. But Linux actually gives you the option to be able to open an image, a web browser from the terminal by using the command xdg -open. So that is the command. And then I want to look at the fossil image. So I'm going to do xdg open fossil.jpg and hit enter. xdg open, just a little more information, actually uses your user settings for things. So when we open this, it's going to open in image viewer. And so for a JPEG file, it is set up that it uses image viewer for that. If we put in a web address, it would open in Firefox because that is the default browser for that. So we can see fossil right here. We can also see Spinosaurus, and oddly enough, we can see the Steggy Hill image, even though it wasn't shown in the list when I used the ls command. You'll see it if you go through the lesson guide for that, it is because that image is actually hidden. And so you can go through and have a conversation with your students about how you can use the ls-a command in order to see hidden files as well. And so as you can see, steggyhill.jpg is hidden with a dot or period in front of its name. So now we see our image. We've looked at the image we're going to use to hide a secret message. And so now we are going to write that secret message. So there are a couple of different text editors out there. We could go round and round about which one is better. Some people like V or Vim if they are pro scripters or pro Linux users. I prefer Nano because I am neither of those things. So the command is going to be Nano, and then we're going to go ahead and give our file a name. And so the name of our file is going to be secret message, and it's going to be a text file. So the command is going to be nano secret message.txt. Obviously, secret is misspelled for humor. So our message is going to be a dad joke. And so we're going to type in, people think that T-Rexes cannot make their beds because their arms are so short, but really it's because they are extinct. So you'll notice that my message is all on one line, and we can't really see the whole thing. Down at the bottom of the Nano screen there, you can see I can hit Control J for justify, which would go ahead and my image within the of the screen there that can be seen. This is not always a thing that you'll want to do, especially if you are programming a script. If you justify it and get Nano to throw in a carriage return, then it can mess up your script. But since we want to be able to see the message so that y'all can type that into your Nano editor, I went ahead and hit Control J to justify that so it all shows up on the screen. Now, I was just at a camp with some middle schoolers, I guess 2 weeks ago, and the next step in the lab actually kind of confused kids a little, mostly because those users or were Chrome users, and so we save things in very different ways. The steps in the lab tell us to go ahead and hit Control X to get out of Nano Editor, and it asks if you want to save the modified buffer. Well, students, even though I totally said it out loud, it did not register with them that is the file. They'd never seen the word buffer before, and so they were a little confused. So they hit in for no because they were like, "Ugh, I don't want to break anything," not knowing that they wiped out everything that we had typed in because they said no. So I'm going to type yes, and then you'll notice it gives me the file name, that secret message.txt that I made up. I still like that file name, so I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. But what you might recommend your kids doing is using that Control S for save. And you'll notice that when I did that, down at the bottom, it says it wrote 2 lines. So since students are used to those quick keys anyway, you might go ahead and mention that they can still use Control S to save their document. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of that. And I am ready. I've got my secret message. I've got the picture that I want to hide it into. So I am now ready for my steg hide command. Before I do that, I'm actually going to hit Control L on the keyboard just to show you that Control L will clear your screen in the exact same way that typing in that message clear will clear your screen. So I've got my secret message, I've got my picture. So now I'm going to use the command steg hide embed, because I am embedding my secret message into my cover photo. So I'm going to do dash EF, if I can find it on the keyboard, EF for embedded file. And that's going to be my secret message.txt. That's the one that I want to embed. And then dash CF for my cover file, which is going to be my fossil.jpg. So this is the command steg hide embed dash EF secret message.txt dash CF fossil.jpg. Now, when I hit enter on this, it's going to ask me to enter a passphrase. And the passphrase that we are going to use from the lab is Pangea, because we're committing to a theme here. So I'm going to make sure that I type it in correctly, but you're going to notice that nothing changes on the screen. It's not going to show my password as little stars. It's not going to show that I'm even typing at all. And that is a security feature for those shoulder surfers. If they are just looking at your screen, they won't be able to see that you've done anything. So I'm going to type in enter, and then it'll ask me to do that again. And I messed up somewhere along the way, and it told me it doesn't match, and so it did not embed my file. So I can hit the up arrow on my keyboard to give me the last command, which was that steg hide command, and I am ready to try again. The typing is not working today. Okay. So now that I've finally gotten it correct, it tells me that it is embedding secret message into Fossil. It shows me that it is done with that. And so now when I LS, secret message is still there. I want to cover my tracks. I want to make sure that no one knows that I am sending secret message. So now I'm going to use the remove command. And so I am going to RM remove secret message, hit enter. And then when I LS again, we once again see it's just my fossil image, it's just my Spinosaurus image, and secret message is gone. So Control L to clear all that stuff out of the way. So now let's out retrieving the message. So, if we had gotten the message in an email or in some way, now we want to be able to extract our message from the picture. And so the command is going to be steg hide, but this time we want to extract, and our SF stego file is that fossil file. So steg hide extract dash SF fossil.jpg. Going to hit enter there. It's going to ask for that passphrase, and now I'm super nervous to type it in correctly. Aha, nailed it. So once you type the password in, it's going to tell you that it has extracted data to secret message .txt. So if I hit LS again, there is secret message back again, like a bad penny, but I am ready to read my message. So for that, I'm going to use the cat command or concatenate. And so what it is going to do is it is going to, it's going to combine the text of secret message to my terminal, and so in a way print it out. And so there is my message that people think T-Rexes cannot make their beds because their arms are so short, but really it's because they are extinct. So at this point in the lab, you would have your students go through on their own. And so they are going to go through those steps independently using that Spinosaurus .jpg image. They'll create their own text file that is a secret message. They'll use the command to embed that text file into Spinosaurus. And then we'll actually wind up moving that Spinosaurus image over to var www HTML, which is a folder to be able to put that onto our Apache server, and then use the alias web server _start in order to mimic sending our image in the form of an email or a text message, however that message would be sent. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, I believe, put y'all into some breakout rooms, Brandon, so that they can work with a partner to create and share those messages. Are we about
Yes.
ready for that part? Okay,
Yeah,
fantastic.
so I'm just going to do 3 breakout rooms. So you'll have, there should be more than 2. So room 3 has only 2 people. If you have an issue or something, or are not on a device that can actually do this, you can always rejoin. Have the option to join the main session at any time. Other than that, we'll give you, let's see, 5 minutes, and then we'll come back.
Okay. So now that the lab is done, the PowerPoint in the putting it all together would now check with the students to make sure that they have a better understanding about what the word embed means, putting something into something else, and then asks how steganography serves as an encryption method for exchanging information, and then gets into why encryption is important in cybersecurity, and then a little parting statement there that encryption helps keep our data safe while online. Knowing a little bit about how encryption works can help us to avoid traps from malicious actors who mean to use our information for their own purposes. That is the end of the lesson. And like Brandon said, this lesson would also include in the guided notes, them navigating over to the career profile section and finding cryptographer on there and answering some questions about the information that they can find about that cyber career. So Brandon, I will go ahead and stop sharing. And we can start wrapping this bad boy up.
All right. So just to give you a quick idea what the other lessons are in that particular course, I have them listed here. Actually, though, I'm gonna not do that and go to the actual course. So when you first load, I can speak today, load the course, let's switch over to student view so it looks more like how you see it as the teacher. So you see the activities listed here. Each one of these gives you a description. If you notice with the description, we have bolded some of the words, and those point out the key features of that lesson or the key idea behind it. What it's using, it could be a tool, it could be a concept. For example, Gamer Exclaimer used phishing, Stegosaur used stenography, the Wireshark uses Wireshark. So this is a quick description of seeing all of them. I will give you a little bit of a secret though, the way these are set up, because some teachers have asked if there's a guide or a suggested order, ways to do that. The course is meant to be modular. You can just pull one out and teach it. But if you are looking for which one is perhaps the easiest to start with, which one would be more difficult, the course is actually arranged in a top to bottom. It goes from easiest to what I consider the more difficult one. So lesson 0 is just using the machines themselves. The top 3 are fairly basic concepts, do not require too many commands or going back and forth between machines. Terminal Tango is just covering command line interface. Ping Pling is firewall settings, uses simply the ping command to go between the machines. And then Taylor's Travels covers some metadata. The others require launching, moving things over to the server, accessing from multiple machines. And then you get down to scriptious malicious, which Linda actually wrote this lesson, did great writing it. It's a multi-step process where the students would actually establish a backdoor. Then they go through how to script the backdoor, and then also end with writing a script for the Windows 7 machine where they do some changes to some files and then actually shut the machine down. So if you're looking at how to tackle these or pick apart the courses as kind of an inside secret, it's top to bottom. It goes from easier to more difficult. Other than that, that pretty much kind of wraps up. I don't want to go over. I want to jump back over to the PowerPoint portion. If you want to continue to look at PD, you can go to cyber.org, click on workshops and events and find a workshop. It'll load a page that has several different workshops there. If you see any that are still going on this week and you want to join, just email us and let us know, and you'll be able to join those. And then other than that, I want to thank everybody from coming. If you have any additional questions, we're going to stick around, and we're also going to have a survey here, but I'm going to stop.